Hi my loves, welcome back to Lavendaire. Today I want to share 5 life lessons I learned from my mom. She basically raised my brother and me as a single mom, and so she had a huge impact on who I am as a person and my outlook on life. Special thanks to NerdWallet for sponsoring a portion of this video, more on that later. A little background on my mom. She is Chinese but born in Vietnam, so she came to the US as a refugee when she was a teenager. So she came around like 16, so she did a little bit of high school, not knowing the language or anything like that. And she is one of 11 siblings. So I have a lot of aunts and uncles, a lot of cousins, so I come from like a big family. And she is introverted. She's very private, which is why I never really show her that much on my channel. But I think it's interesting because if you really know who she is very spiritual, and has a lot of wisdom. She is very Buddhist, and she is essentially like, I kind of see her as the Lavendaire in her family. She is the one that's always giving advice and sharing her philosophies about life and spirituality to her brothers and sisters. And I just think that is funny. So I realized like she's influenced me in a lot of ways, and I haven't really shared that side of myself with you guys. So I thought it'd be fun to share just 5 life lessons I learned from my mom. The first and biggest lesson I've learned from my mom is to be independent, to be financially independent as a woman, to work and to not rely completely on a man. So she always taught me, don't fully depend on a man. You need to be able to work and at the very least take care of yourself and have, some sort of financial security to fall back on. This comes from her life story where she was working as well. She's an accountant. At the same time, this lesson kind of comes from her own story, the pain and the trauma of her relationship with my dad, because even though he and her separated, he did financially support our family, and she relied on him for that. And seeing that relationship, seeing how someone can still have power over you even if, like, because of the money, like despite everything else, like that was not a good feeling. Like I saw that was kind of a crutch, like to have to depend on someone else even though the situation is not good. So that's why I never ever aim to be like a trophy wife and to be the girl that doesn't work and rely on a richer man, because that is not a healthy relationship. Like sure, there are healthy versions of it if the man is very healthy and very respectful and all those things, compassionate, but there's just so much room for error for like the power dynamic to shift in a negative way where your life will always feel like you're controlled to some level, and that is not true freedom. True freedom is being able to be financially independent, just independent in general. Like yes, you can have people in your life, you can depend on people, but not like 100%. You always have to be able to fall back on yourself and be able to take care of yourself. So that is, I recognize, a deep lesson that comes from both like the strength and the weakness of my mom. It comes from like a deeper place of like pain. And to be honest, some of it did come from like her jadedness. Like things that she used to tell me when I was young was like, love is not real. And I had to overcome, those things as well. But in general, I did learn independence, how important it is to be a strong woman, to be able to stand up for yourself and to take care of yourself independently. Speaking of independence and financial independence, my mom also really encourages me to save money and invest. She is an accountant, so she's really conscious about money and all these little tips and tricks to like save money here and there. So with that in mind, I'd like to take this moment to thank NerdWallet for sponsoring this portion of this video. When it comes to finance, often the hardest part is simply making a decision. NerdWallet is a personal finance website and app that helps you feel confident to make smart financial decisions. Whether you're trying to decide what credit card to get to maximize rewards or explore your savings account options, NerdWallet is here to help with side-by-side comparisons and objective reviews so you can choose what's right for you. Finance doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, it can be empowering when you learn to take it into your own hands. With NerdWallet, you can directly compare all the best financial products, see all the pros and cons, and make smarter decisions for yourself. Since we're living in a time of high inflation and an unpredictable market, I've been thinking about where I should put my money and planning my cash strategy. So I've actually been using NerdWallet to compare and find a high yield savings account where I can earn a little more with a higher interest rate than my checking account. With a high yield savings account, your money can work harder for you while still being readily available. Ready to make smart financial decisions? Compare and find the smartest credit cards, high yield savings accounts, and more at nerdwallet.com. Thanks to NerdWallet for sponsoring that part of my video. Now back to my regular content. The second thing I learned from my mom was Buddhism and spirituality. And if I were to boil it down to like a lesson, it would be a good person and do good deeds. She's always been telling me and my brother these kinds of like lessons our entire lives, like be good to other people, do good deeds. The lessons are rooted in Buddhism. We believe in reincarnation, we believe in karma. So we believe like if you do good things in life, then you'll reincarnate to something better, or maybe you reach enlightenment where you don't reincarnate because you're like at the highest level. I don't know. But I did grow up with my mom being very Buddhist. Like we have our shrine at home. She prays every day. And when I say pray, like they have like chants that she will do. Without going too deep into that, because I know that people have different beliefs and different faiths, and I respect that. But in general, my mom is a spiritual person. And so I think I grew up already comfortable with the notion of, oh, we have a spirit and this idea of spirituality. There's somewhere you go after death. And as I learned about spirituality from Western sources, like New Age spirituality, I saw like so many connections where I'm like, oh, I already knew that. Oh, that makes sense. And it wasn't like new to me when I was learning these spiritual things, because I was like, oh, my mom tells me these things all the time. Something else I should highlight is, you know how I've created many guided meditation videos? Well, my mom and my aunts and uncles were actually the first ones to take this Chinese energy healing meditation class. Like she did it first. And then once they took that class, they started like meditating consistently. My mom meditates every morning. So she taught me like that style of meditation. And then I went to go take that class with Wilson. And it's from that teaching that I have infused some of those techniques into the guided meditations that I make on YouTube. The technique of like envisioning like energy coming through your crown and kind of like through each chakra point, flushing your body, like, you know, ridding the negative energy in with the positive light energy that's around you. So that was influenced by my mom. Lesson number 3 from my mom is never owe anyone anything. This one can be a little controversial because I'm not sure that it is an absolute like truth, but it just shows like how independent my mom likes to be. She does not like to borrow things from people. If you do borrow something, return it immediately, or if someone does something for you, return the favor immediately. She believes in keeping the energy equal where you don't owe anyone anything, because, you know, if you wait too long, maybe like, I don't know, you like that person will ask you too much, or I'm not sure, but she likes to keep that energy equal. On one hand, this allows you to have freedom and independence, but on the other hand, having this mindset can tend to make you not like to ask people for help. And I do believe there is good in leaning on others, not too much, but you know, that is what brings humans together, and we have a connection when we like rely on each other. There's like, you know, exchange of favors or energy. There is give and take, and that's what makes relationships. But you know, my mom is super introverted. She's super independent. She doesn't like to rely on people, and she doesn't like to ask for anything or borrow anything. So like I said, there's pros and cons, and it's not an absolute truth, but she has taught me, you know, if someone ever does a favor for you, return it immediately. Do something nice for them. Or if someone lends you something, return it immediately. Moving on to lesson number 4, one big thing that I also learned watching my mom's journey was self-love and enjoying being alone. My mom had her own little triumphant journey that I observed ever since I was young, and throughout the years, like I guess it was around maybe high school when we started to open up and talk about our feelings and the difficulties we were going through in the earlier years. Like I learned how much my mom had to become stronger as a person and learn to love herself despite everything challenging that happened to her in life. So I learned self-love because she learned self-love. She taught the importance of she doesn't need anyone else to make her happy. She can make herself happy. She enjoys her own company. And this was a lesson that she was forced to learn, because before that, she was the type of person to really want someone to attach to. She really wished my dad was here, but he wasn't. So she had to learn to stand strong on her own and be able to love herself and love her life on her own. And that was not easy. Basically, she's now at a place where she is at peace and happy being by herself and living by herself. There was a point where I moved out and she was the only person living by herself, and I was concerned. I was like, aren't you lonely? Like, do you want someone to live with you? Why don't you invite like your sisters or someone to live with you? And she's like, no, I don't want to live with them. Like, I want to live by myself. I like my own private space. I enjoy being alone. And if I want to see people, like, she can go out and see people. And so I really learned that, oh, it's okay to want to be alone and to enjoy your own company and find peace in that. All right, final lesson number 5 that I learned from my mom is to always continue learning. So my mom has always loved to read books and learn. Ever since we were young, after school she would take us to the library, and so I always had like a rotation of books that I liked to read ever since I was like really young in elementary school, maybe even younger. I don't even remember. So clearly she instilled that value in both me and my younger brother, and we both like to read, we both like to learn and expand ourselves. So that's something that I really am grateful for, to be exposed to this habit and this, like, I guess this lifelong lifestyle of enjoying learning. And I'm sure you guys see that influence based on what I do, what I talk about and share on Lavendaire. Even to this day, my mom really likes listening to the radio, listening to podcasts, and she watches YouTube videos of Chinese people speaking about spirituality and feng shui and random things like that. And then whenever she has something new that she learns, she'll like tell me about it. And it's so cute because the other day she's like, have you heard of angel numbers? Have you learned about this book or this book? And I'm like, oh, I have heard of that. And it's like we're learning about similar things, but through different mediums and in different languages. And I think that's, I don't know, that's funny. So I hope you enjoyed listening to these lessons and getting a little insight on where I've been influenced from my mom. And I'm sure by now it's pretty clear that there's a lot of me that has been influenced by my mom. Even like my interest in astrology, because she's always been interested in feng shui, and Chinese has their own version of astrology. And so I've always been comfortable and aware and curious about topics like that. Just for fun, since we got this far, comment down below, what is one lesson that you learned from the person who raised you? Thank you so much for being here, sending you so much love, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!